speak at all. Well, I managed to get out a few things in the beginning, and I said, look, I see there are a bunch of pro-Israel people on this side, a bunch of pro-Palestinian people on that side, probably 800 people in the middle with open minds. I said, I want to talk to the people with open minds, but I want to use the two groups here as evidence. So I turned to the pro-Israel group and I said, how many of you would be prepared to accept a Palestinian state, non-belligerent, non-militarized, living within secure borders as neighbors? Every hand went up, automatically. I then turned to the pro-Palestinian group and said, how many of you would accept a Jewish state, nation state of the Jewish people, living next to you without any occupation, without any settlements, without anything of that kind? They all mumbled to each other. Not a single hand went up. The provost of the university said to me at that point, doesn't matter about the shouting, you can sit down now, you've won the debate. You've persuaded the 800 people in the middle. This is not pro-Israel versus pro-Palestine, it's pro-Israel versus anti-Israel. That the Palestinian group wants there not to be a nation state for the Jewish people more than they want there to be a Palestinian state. That has been the consistent theme since 1937, when the Peel Commission was established. And the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem was called in front of the Peel Commission and said, we are prepared to give you a Palestinian state. He said, there's no such thing as the Palestinian people. We don't want a Palestinian state. This is southern Syria. We just don't want there to be a Jewish state. Islamic law prohibits any sovereignty by Jews in areas that were ultimately or previously captured by Muslims. So it became a religious prohibition. So in 1937, they could have had a two-state solution. In 1947, in 1948, in 1967, in 1993, in 2000, 2001, 2008. Do you know that university students have no idea? They have no idea. When you just tell them that the Israelis have offered the Palestinians a state, they've offered to end the occupation, they've offered to trade inch for inch of land, they sit there with a blank face and they say, our professors didn't tell us that. Our friends from Justice for Palestine didn't tell us that. Our friends from Jewish Voice for Peace didn't tell us that. They're Jewish, they're for peace, they must know. One of the most anti-Semitic organizations in the world today, Jewish Voice for Peace. The only thing truthful about that statement is voice. They are very loud, but they are largely not Jewish, and they have no interest in peace, and yet they use their argument by ethnic identification. That's the most common argument that's made today on college campuses. See, Jill Stein, she's running on the Green Party. She's Jewish. She's in favor of BDS. If a Jew is in favor of BDS, that must be true. Bernie Sanders, he's Jewish. He just appointed, look who he appointed. He appointed Cornel West, who calls what Israel is doing genocide, who says that Israel is engaged in apartheid. He's Jewish. It must be true. This argument by ethnic identity is as fallacious an argument as the classic argument ad hominem. But it's believed on college campuses. And that's why it's so important here today that we have non-Jews in our midst. People who are religious Christians, people who are every faith. Israel is not a Jewish issue alone. Israel is an issue of justice. Israel is an issue that every decent person should support across the board. But we have what's now called intersectionality. Have you heard that term? It's a phony anthropological, sociological term. You saw the American Anthropological Association voted against BDS by the closest of votes the other day, with thousands of anthropologists voting in favor of BDS. Well, sociologists and anthropologists of the hard left have come up with this concept of intersectionality. Let me tell you what it means. It means that if you want to be for the environment, you have to be anti-Israel. It means if you want to be for gay rights, you have to be anti-Israel. It means if you want to be a feminist, you have to be anti-Israel. And when you're told by somebody who says, look, I'm gay, I went to Israel, there's no country in the world that treats gays better than Israel does. They have gay pride parades. Many guidebooks regard Tel Aviv as the best city for gays. The answer they give you is pinkwashing. Pinkwashing means, aha, we acknowledge that Israel has the best record on gay rights of any country, but they do it purposely and deliberately in order to whitewash what they're doing to the Palestinians. You know, that is the oldest form of anti-Semitism, which is anything the Jew does must be for the wrong reason. Jews are too rich or they're too poor. They're too left or they're too right. They're always two. Everything they do has to have an insidious purpose. And of course, pinkwashing was invented by a Jewish gay woman from one of the New York City colleges who, believe it or not, got the New York Times to publish an article, an op-ed, describing Israel's policy toward gays as pinkwashing. So that's what intersectionality is about. That's why Jill Stein of the Green Party comes out in favor of BDS. You can't support the environment unless you also support those people who are the most anti-environments in the world, the Arab countries in the Middle East who couldn't care less about the environment, and you have to come out against the country in the Middle East that is most environmentally sensitive. Otherwise, you can't be an environmentalist. It is the most absurd argument, and yet it is gaining currency on college and university campuses today. So we have to fight. We have to fight against the BDS movement. We have to fight against it legislatively. And I want to say here today that I want to praise Governor Cuomo of New York for issuing a statement last week saying that New York State will not do business with anybody who practices BDS. The same thing is true in a number of other states. California is now considering such legislation, and I think Nat Lewin would agree with me, legislation is superior to litigation. Litigation, you could lose. Litigation is in front of a jury. You never know. Legislation, you have some degree of control over legislation, and you can win. Now, we have to be careful about how we draft the legislation. The First Amendment trumps legislation. And we have to make sure the legislation doesn't punish advocacy of BDS, but only the practice of BDS. It is constitutional to prevent a company from discriminating. Just like it's constitutional to protect a company, to prosecute or punish a company that discriminates against gays or women or transgenders. The same people who are calling Governor Cuomo McCarthyite for saying he won't do business with BDSers are the ones who are calling for North Carolina to be sanctioned and boycotted because of its approach to transgender bathrooms. Well, you can't have it both ways. Yes, you can. If it's against Israel and on university campuses, you can have it both ways. You don't have to be consistent. The only consistency that's required of you is always be anti-Israel, and you'll be okay. And so, I am optimistic. I think we're winning these debates on college campuses more and more because college students today, many of them, are getting fed up with what they're being fed by the hard left and by the administrators and by the deans and by the faculty. They're being infantilized. They're being treated like little babies. Protect us. God, some Yale dean said that maybe Yale shouldn't tell its students what costumes it could wear on Halloween, and other students refused to accept the degrees from this dean and try to get the dean fired. There is on every college campus today a group of hard left people. You know, when I went to college, it was very interesting. There was censorship. There was McCarthyism, and it came from the right. It came from Senator McCarthy himself and others who were trying to suppress free speech. Today, McCarthyism comes from the hard left. Today, the left on college campuses knows the truth with a capital T. They don't have to hear opposing points of view. Why do they have to hear anything else? They know the truth. Why do we have to have free speech? Why do we have to have freedom of expression? Let's just tell the truth. And the truth is that, and then they have their agenda and their intersectionality and their approach to Israel. Well, we have to fight that with the real truth, with Emet, with the truth that this organization represents. And I'm so proud to be an honoree of this organization. I will always, always respect this organization and admire what it does and appreciate what it has honored me with. I just want to end with a quote from the Psalms. The Psalms of David. I'll say it briefly in Hebrew for those of you who understand, and it's in part of the prayer that we say every day. Hashem oz li'amo yitain, Hashem yivarech et amo b'shalom. God will give the Jewish people oz, strength. Only then will the Jewish people have peace. And that's the lesson of Holocaust. That's the lesson of Israel. A strong Israel is required to get peace. Never apologize for your strength.